Oh, hello. I guess I'm getting a lighting cue that I'm on. Hi, everybody. How's it going? Welcome in. Lovely to see you all. This one, if you were at my last panel like 2 hours ago, is going to be very different. It's going to be a very different feel because I have no more energy to give.
I think you could do some more squats, though.
I can do some more squats. So donations for squats, generosity. Not for this stream, please don't. You should be donating to generosity anyway, just out of generosity. But this time, you don't get to force us to do squats. So welcome in to Talking Comedy Skits with Deerstalker Pictures and Robert Hartley, GM. These are Deerstalker Pictures. I am Robert Hartley, GM. It is lovely to have you here. If you are here just because you're a fan of either of our works, welcome in. If you're here because you want to learn about making a career out of making YouTube things, then also welcome in. It's good to have you here. We're going to just get started with a little bit of introductions for those who don't really know what we are. Maybe you just saw it on the program and thought you'd pop in. And you're thinking, why are these people talking about this topic? Why are they worth listening to? Well, since I'm the one talking, I'll already start. I'm Robert Hartley, GM. I'm most well known for being a dungeon master for a comedy group called Viva La Dirt League. Thank you very much. Thank you. We have comedy skits about D&D up on, it's called D&D Logic on their main channel, and we've also got an actual play D&D thing that's ongoing for several years now over on a secondary channel called Viva La Dirt League D&D. And so we've been, I'm representing Viva La Dirt League. The rest of Viva La Dirt League weren't able to come to PAX this year, unfortunately. And so I'm going to be representing them. I'm also a dungeon master in my own right, making my own comedy YouTube-related things for my own channel at Robert Hartley GM as well. So I've been running a couple of YouTube channels for a while, hence my ability to talk on the subject. How about you guys? Who are you and why can you talk on this subject?
We are Deerstalker Pictures. I'm Goldie and...
I'm Elliot.
We have been doing YouTube for, 10 years now, and you may know us from our D&D fantasy web series, One for All.
Woo! No. It's tumbleweed.
we used to also do cosplay convention videos and Lolita fashion, so if you've been around with us that long, that's the history.
There's one person who's watched our Lolita stuff.
That person is me, because when I had you on my interview channel on my Twitch, Short Rest, I went way back to the very beginning and I was like, what is this?
It gets weird.
This isn't the normal stuff. This is
We have
different.
Grown in 10 years, could you believe?
I know, right?
I mean, we also didn't really know how to run a business or ask anyone, know anybody who we could ask for advice. So we were just kind of doing hey, we like this, we like that, we like that. And you can see how just diverse all of our backlog is.
But to the point of who we are and what we do, I'm the producer and cinematographer, so camera and lighting and making things happen. And
yeah, I'm the writer and director and editor, and I used to do VFX as well.
We did many hats,
Yes.
as you would know, Rob.
Yeah, oh yeah, you need to do many hats. That's one of the first things you'll hear today. Is if you're going to make it work in YouTube, you need to wear many hats. Because you cannot have the budget for every single member of a crew when you're first starting out and making YouTube videos. You can't have a full film team. So what are we hoping people go away from this panel with? What's the kind of the purpose of why people are coming to this, do you guys think?
Well, I think you're either going to what we do or what Rob does with Viva La Dirt League. Or you are genuinely curious about how to kind of get a career going out of a YouTube or Twitch channel, or you just really wanted to sit down.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe it's the time of day where you just needed to get off your feet, and that's perfectly fine. You are also welcome here. Let's first start with creativity. Creativity, the sort of spark that leads it all. What is the process for you guys, do you feel, behind how you come up with the ideas that you come up with for Deerstalker Pictures?
Yeah, I mean, is always different, but my kind of first thought is what character do I want to focus on? What do I want to tell with the story, and where do I want it to go? And usually there'll be some kind of instigating idea that'll just kind of creep into my head, and then I'll kind of work backwards to reverse engineer a story out of it. So I guess when I was writing, say, like an episode called Animal Handling Check, and there's like a druid who is the horse in the joust, the thought was just like, all right, so what would be the silliest creature for this druid to be? And it just kind of all spiraled from there. And eventually I had, here's the twist, here's the character, and then I could kind of fill in the blanks. And then, of course, from that, having that kind of blueprint, I thought about, all right, how do we actually film this? Because we are still like, quite low budget. We're not, Marvel or whatever. So it's always just kind of like, all right, we have an idea. How do we actually like put this onto screen? And so there's a lot of like creative compromise of like how to actually end with a video on YouTube.
So when you're getting that initial sort of spark of creativity, coming up with an idea, you don't limit yourself at that stage. You just allow it to be blue sky. If possible, we would love to have this, and this. And then when you go, all right, having a full-on medieval joust, is that actually possible? And that's when you start to put the limits on and bring things down to a reality scale.
I mean, you can work both ways. Sometimes it is the blue sky, and other times it's like, all right, we've got this prop, this costume, this location.
What can we do?
Write something.
Write something that uses those things, and those things only.
Yes. But I mean, the thing is that, like, even if you kind of realize, like, halfway through, like, oh, this is not possible, then, like, you can always kind of just have this idea, like, in the back of your mind. So it's like, I always have, like, scripts. I'm sure you've got the same thing of just, like, that's going to sit there and kind of steep. And eventually, I'll find a use for it. Maybe not in this form, but maybe in like a different form. So it might be like a joke.
Do you keep it in the back of your mind, or do you have like a notebook or like a document, Google Docs?
Too many Google
And
Docs.
they're just all over the place. Like if you're anything like me, you've got notes on your phone, you've got your notes on Google Docs, you've got Drive, you've got this.
Yeah, that's it. And then like I'll look back at them, years later and be like, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I didn't put enough context. Thanks, past Rob. I had no idea what you were talking about. And when you've got all those ideas, how do you know which one is ripe, I suppose? Which one is ready to actually make into a thing?
I mean, it's usually going to come down to just like mostly what we can afford to do. And like, obviously there's some ideas that you are really passionate about and you want to like make, but they're going to cost you like over 100 hours to bring those to life. Or you can do something that is like a little bit more contained, and you can always build up to that 100-hour idea.
Yeah, I heard at drama school something that was said that was like, everybody's got their main project that they want to work on, their little passion piece, but it's kind of a trap to go for that immediately, especially like straight out of drama school or straight out of film school, because you haven't developed the skills or the funding needed for that sort of thing. And so you do it and it doesn't turn out the way you want, and then you're super disappointed in it because you're like, yeah, it didn't match the idea. And a lot of the advice was like, do some of the other stuff, do some of the other littler ideas that you've got, and like build your set of skills, build your network, build your equipment that you have access to, build your funding.
Yes.
And eventually you get to the point where you're like, okay, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this thing that I've been wanting to do for many years now.
Yeah, and I mean, that was kind of before One for All, we had this entire other web series that we started shooting. We shot 4 episodes
4 whole episodes.
And we were just like, oh, this kind of sucks.
Right.
It will never see the light of day, but we can. Would you like to know what it is?
Yes.
No,
very much.
so embarrassing.
Very much. What is it?
I
What's
mean,
the
like we were
concept?
doing like lots of kind of before One for All, we were doing like lots of anime like fan content stuff, and so we wanted to do like, what would be like? Has anyone seen what's the like the detective show that?
Detective Pictures.
Anime Crimes Division?
Yeah, Anime Crimes Division. It was kind of like that, but even weebier.
Just weeb parody, like, the OP where there's like running down the street with toast in your mouth, kind of. It was cringe on purpose, but I think it was just mostly cringe.
Yeah, like
That's a trap I find a lot with young filmmakers. They're like, oh, I'll just lean into the low budget. It's totally meant to be low budget. It's meant to have a cringe feel. It's like, yeah, but that's not hiding the actual cringe.
That can work sometimes. So with the animal handling check episode, we couldn't really afford the horse prosthetic for the mid-transformation of the druid. So we got, a terrible horse mask, which was super cursed. But, that was a vibe. It worked.
Lean into it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Sometimes it works. I think it works best when you can tell it's not them saying it as an excuse to be like, we couldn't have done it better if we wanted to, but we're going to just excuse it as if it was meant to be this way. I think it can be summed up when we had a mammoth in the green screen for the Viva La Dirt League D&D one time, and it was just some fur wrapped around one of the actors' arms while another actor held a tusk up to their mouth, and they went, "Ah, my mammoth." That was pretty much it.
But like, you could spend 100 hours and millions of
CGI
dollars on
mammoths.
a
Exactly.
mammoth, or you could just like, does this joke work?
Yeah.
Right now.
Is it good
funnier.
enough for the punchline that we need it to be? Yes. Move on. So, what do you find inspires you? Where do the new ideas come from in the first place? Like,
I mean, yeah.
do you like to go for walks? Do you watch things and steal ideas? Like, because that's a big part of it. As a dungeon master, I'm like, oh, that's a really cool plot there that I can steal for my game and stuff. And I do the same, but not direct like videos. I don't watch a whole skit and go, oh, let's just do that same skit. But you watch things and go, oh, there was a joke in there that they went a different direction with the joke, and there was things there that you could expand on. Or
Yeah, like generally you're just kind of always like in the back of your mind thinking about like, what is content? Could this be content?
Yeah.
And I think that's just
Everything
kind
is
of
content.
part of the hustle that you can never kind of like stop.
No, yeah, that becomes a problem when you like get together with your friends to like play a new role-playing game or something. You're like, should we be filming this? Just in case. It could be good. It could be really good.
Monetize all your hobbies.
Yeah.
It's great.
No, we could, even if it's not good, we put it on Patreon.
But I think we all, consume, and I hate the word consume, but, you're building your taste, everything that you watch and play, and, that informs your taste. And when you're creating, that's all going to come out. Like, we've been nerds forever, and everything that we do for the show is informed by, I was a little weeb once, and I like, all the pretty elf boys, and I like, casting spells and fantasy and these things, and it just comes up. And we direct it into a way that represents what our interests are and who we are as people as well. So if you've watched the show, and I presume most of you have if you're here, you would know that it is extremely absurd humor from this guy's mind, and very visually aesthetic, because that's what we like, very queer, and yeah, that's what we want to represent.
What about forced creativity? So like when you are making things, and making things is your job, and it's not only you that you're responsible for, but like the people that you pay and the whole film crew and everything. And you kind of, at that point, you have to meet a deadline with a script or an idea or whatever. And a lot of people mistake when they're getting into a creative field like this, or trying to turn their creative thing from a hobby to an actual income. A lot of people make the mistake of like, oh, I write when the muse takes me, or I write this. And sometimes it just doesn't work that way. When you are in a situation where you are forced to sit down and write, but you just can't, you're not feeling it, do you do anything that like inspires you, or gets you back into a creative mood, mindset?
Yeah, like I think not really. Like there are often times where I'll spend like 3 days on a script and be like, well, this is going nowhere. Right. So instead of like trying to force it out, I'll just kind of like, all right, I'm going to put this on hold for the moment. I'm going to tug on this other thread. And like the idea is to always have like lots of little threads going at once, so that you can always have like a backup plan, because it's like YouTube. I'm sure you guys all know about like the algorithm, about how like, oh, you didn't upload today, so that's negative minus 10 points or whatever. You kind of have to just keep going.
Yeah. A change is as good as a rest kind of thing. Like, hey, I'm not going to force this. This is clearly not coming. Writer's block, or whatever you want to call it, is happening here. But I've got this other idea that I do feel creative about. Or this one's already further along in the process. And
I think
work
like
on that one.
Like especially if you've been dwelling on the idea and you've got it in the back of your mind. Suddenly, like weeks later, you'll have like your eureka moment where it's like, oh, this ties into that, and that ties into that, and suddenly we have an episode, and now I can actually start working on it.
Yeah. I find that sometimes with me it is just a case of, no, I'm not putting it aside. Like I'm gonna sit here and think about it, and sometimes it is literally just sit and think, turn my phone off, turn everything off, and just sit. The other day I've got 3 games that I'm running this. I had a private game, the game earlier today, and a game tomorrow. And I was like, I don't have ideas for any of them. And I was on the plane coming to PAX, and I was like, whew, I've really left this last minute. Like I was waiting for the muse to strike for like the last 4 weeks, and none of the games were coming to me, and I was like, oh God. And so I had a 4-hour flight from New Zealand to here, and I was like, right, I'm going to turn the screen off in front of me on the plane. I'm going to just sit and look at the seat in front and think, what is the game going to be about?
I mean, I'm sure the deadline helps.
The deadline certainly
helps.
helps.
Very ADHD. You know?
Yeah, very much so. And so things just started coming, and like for me, it's like connections start happening. Like I usually look for my when I'm doing D&D things, it's usually because I'm looking at character sheets and backstories, and I go, this person has put together these character qualities for themselves. They've chosen to have a really good athletics, and they've chosen to have a really poor charisma, whatever. They want to lean into that, obviously, and so I'll think of ways to include that. And it's similar when I'm creating a story, like when I was writing for D&D Logic. I was thinking about the characters as though they were actually characters with character sheets and their backstories and stuff, and say, how do I come up with something that ties all of their backstories together and things like that.
And that's hard to do in a short form on YouTube when you've only got like 5 minutes or less, really. But that is something that we want to explore more, actually.
Yeah, but I always feel like, you know, as far as like a skit goes, you know, you kind of polish it into this like, you know, it's funny at the end, and it's all wrapped up neatly. You've like dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's. And then actually the plot is the first thing that kind of gets cut.
Right, yeah. So you were talking about algorithms before. Let's talk a little about the dreaded YouTube algorithm.
Oh, no.
And how fickle it is. So firstly, for anyone who is here to be like, oh, I'm wanting to get into making things for YouTube, there is no cheat code. We have been doing this for a long time and barely understand the algorithm better than you do. Sometimes a video will go up and it'll go, oh wow, that's really doing gangbusters. There's thousands, hundreds of thousands of views or whatever. And then other times you go, oh, they clearly like that. Here's another one of those, and it goes. So how have you guys found the ways to deal with that?
I mean, it's something we've been battling this whole time, and it changes every 2 seconds. So yeah, we have been like pivoting in the content that we've been like putting out there. And this year, you know, it's all about shorts. It's all about vertical. So that's something that we've been trying to do, both with cut downs of like the full 3 to 5 minute eps. They're like 60-second eps, and then we put them on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube Shorts and get in new viewers. Like out of you guys, how many people have seen us from shorts compared to? Yeah, okay. So it's clearly worked a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's like just kind of knowing where the audience is. And like, I know that we've been cutting down like our older episodes. Like we did like 1 minute installments of Battle of the Bards.
On TikTok.
And like we got like comments just like, oh, I can't wait to see what happens next. It's like, dude,
You don't need to wait to see what happens next. Go watch the video. There are different platforms. Do you find that, because I've found that a little bit with my stuff, that the platforms just don't interchange? Like the people who are watching my stuff on YouTube are not watching my stuff on TikTok or my stuff on Instagram or my stuff like. Do you find that like people in general pick a platform that's their thing and just stick with it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's even the same like with YouTube Shorts and then YouTube videos. Like the people who watch videos don't always watch shorts, and then vice versa.
So even within the platform, it's like the same. It's not even the same audience, even within YouTube.
And so we started doing original shorts, not cut down ones, and that reaches another audience again.
And then the small fraction of our audience who do watch both, they've just been watching our cut down, so they're like, where is the full video of this? It's like, no, this is the full video.
How good have you guys gotten through all your experience with Deerstalker? How long's Deerstalker been going now? How many years?
10 years on YouTube. Wait, are we up to 11 now? I think it was 2012.
Don't make me feel old.
Yeah.
More than a decade. With all that experience, have you gotten any better at like predicting before something goes up, this one's going to do well?
I mean, the general rule of thumb, and I think this is also the same sentiment that the cast have, it's usually like the episodes that we love, nobody watches them. The episodes that we hate are just like so high up. I mean, hate's a strong word, but it's always just like, oh, it's a bit, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Your favorite episode being?
My favorite episode is it's either the musical, of course, or it's like the one where they're all like in the bird's nest, and there's a mama bird who's like feeding her young.
It's always the fluids with this one.
Lots of bodily fluids in that one. I find the same, that it's like there's not a direct relation to the ones that you've enjoyed or put the most passion in. I know a few YouTubers, and without outing anybody, that the content that makes them a lot of money or a lot of views or whatever is the stuff that in person they'll go, God, I hate doing that shit. I hate the fact that I have to repeat that same line over and over again, or I hate the fact that I have to keep churning out that particular type of content because it's just it's the one that the algorithm likes the most. Yeah. So it kind of reminds me of like people tend to say, like Hollywood actors will tend to talk about like one for them, one for you. Like they'll do one for the big studios, one that'll earn them a lot of money, one that the agents and the managers are pushing for because it's the money makers, and then they'll go off and do a passion project film that's like nobody's going to go watch it but it's something that actually gives them joy. It keeps them from blowing their brains out. And so I feel like it's even kind of the same with YouTube content creation. One for the algorithm and then one for you. Like you can put out a video that's like this is something that I have taken a lot of pride in, and it's probably not going to get a lot of views because for some reason that's just how it goes. And then I'll just churn out something that's got like some memes or the repeatable phrases or whatever from our content.
Say the line, Bart.
Say the line. Say the line, Bart. So that's about predicting it before it goes up, whether or not they're going to do well. Have you gotten better at analyzing after the fact? Why did that one do so well, or why did that one tank?
I mean, we've been experimenting this year with, which characters are in which episodes, or like, do we make it more accessible, like the jokes? We get a lot of comments that are like, I haven't played D&D, but I started watching your stuff, and now I'm going to play my first game. And so making that, the jokes not too esoteric, like inside a baseball kind of thing, helps to make it, bring in more of those new audiences. But then we've got the hardcore D&D players that, have been playing all their lives, and they really want to know the exact, like, little tiny joke that, we can make. But, can't please everyone.
Yeah, when I was writing D&D Logic, I specifically wrote the episode about rules lawyers, and then got more rules lawyers in the comments of that rules lawyer episode.
No, but that's great. That's great engagement.
Completely missing the irony of themselves trying to correct me on an episode called Rules Lawyer.
So there actually is a cheat code to this whole thing.
There is one, yeah.
There is a cheat code. Put a spelling mistake in one of your shorts, or say something slightly incorrect.
The last one that we released, Dice Goblin.
Yeah. Was that the one where like?
So Evandra pulls a great axe out of the door, and then we get her to roll. But the initial shot we were going to use was a sword, and so the dice roll that she says at the tabletop is wrong.
Yeah.
She rolls a different damage dice or something.
Yeah.
Well, what is it?
That's
like
a way to get engagement.
And so we're getting comments on that. Also, we said dice as singular.
Oh, people
and so
like that.
like, it's actually die.
It's actually not. The thing that I love most is when people incorrect you. Dice, as a singular, is commonly accepted today. That's how language works. If enough people are using it as that word is perfectly factually accurate to use.
That
dice
is
can
literally
be said.
what it means.
Yeah, just
dice can mean either singular or plural. Die is still just singular. So if you choose to use die, it's fine. But if you choose to use dice as a singular, you are not incorrect.
No, that's how you get the engagement.
Yeah. So focusing all of your energy on trying to analyze the things, the algorithm is, that way lies madness, really. And so can you're at the stage where you can just kind of like pursue what you want to do, put them out, and not worry too much about how they're doing, or do you still like check all of it and like fret over it? And
I mean, like we'll always say, like, don't look at the numbers because the numbers are fickle, but you'll still inevitably have to start looking at them.
The numbers are what paying your bills.
Yeah.
The numbers is what's ultimately whether you can do it as a sustainable career or not.
I mean, the interface of YouTube actually pits you against yourself.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, the last upload, how's it doing against your last 10 uploads? And it gives you like green ticks and sparkly banners and
compares
stuff.
you against yourself so that you're always having to strive to better against you.
Never good enough.
It's got a little grayed out sort of like when you're doing Mario Kart or something, you're playing against like the ghost version of your previous lap. It's like that, but on YouTube, once you put something up, it tells you like, it shows you a line of like viewer count or subscriber count or whatever like algorithm you can click at the different tabs, and it'll show you like a grade version of like the average of your recent videos, and you can see this one's not performing as well as your previous ones. It's annoying.
It's mean.
I tend to just try and ignore them, to be honest. So let's talk YouTube, and let's talk the money from YouTube. Yeah. Because YouTube doesn't pay. YouTube doesn't pay well. So one of the things you should pick up right from the very beginning is, if you're wanting to quit your job and take up a career as doing YouTube, absolutely go for it. Just know that it's not going to be an economic decision, at least at first. You have to get significant advancements on YouTube before you can start seeing money from YouTube itself. Hence why, if you see all of these YouTubers that you love, anyone that's like got millions of subscribers are still using ads and sponsorships on every one of their videos. This video brought to you by so-and-so, more on them at the end of the video, whatever. Or like mid YouTube advert breaks that they'll do, like that are built into the video rather than the YouTube ads themselves. So what have you guys found about ways that you have tackled actually being able to make a living through it and try and make a revenue? Or not even necessarily through YouTube, but how else do you find ways to supplement that income?
I mean, our supporters who are also here in the crowd, that's how we do this. Patreon, crowdfunding. We're very lucky to have been successful for multiple Screen Australia grants, because there's some nerds that work in the office there, I guess. Yeah. Great for us. So we've been able to use that as like a talent escalator to train up everyone that's been on our production, and like us as well, to give you those big episodes like musicals and stuff. Yeah. But as far as like the more day-to-day grassroots sustainability, it's the sponsorships. And I know it's like annoying, but yeah, that's how we can pay everyone. Because that's the thing, we actually pay everyone to come film episodes. Like, it's actually work, and we want to, help them pay rent and eat. So
yeah, like we're struggling creators, so we understand how everybody else is struggling. So we want to make sure that everyone can pay their rent on time.
I mean, if we ever got to a post-scarcity era, like Star Trek Next Gen kind of era, where everybody's just got universal basic income, or like we've got replicated, whatever, like then yes, of course, you can just put content out there just for the sake of doing it for your own passion. You can be like, yeah, I'm not going to worry about where I'm going to get my next meal from. I'm not going to worry about how I'm going to pay my rent, and so I'm going to do this because I'm passionate about doing it. But until we get to that stage, people seem to still expect that. Whenever we do adverts in the Viva stuff, we'll get invariably get comments being like, I use an ad blocker so that I don't have to put up with this stuff, and then you bake it into the video, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I'm sorry that this free content we're doing for you, it has got like 20 seconds of minor inconvenience so that we can actually pay for making the free content that we're giving you.
I mean, they can just scrub forwards anyway.
Yeah, I know, right? You've got to skip forward 15-second button. Like, you've got a thing.
It's harder to type the comment.
It took you way longer than it was to just watch it.
We do get comments about that, like, why are you giving this away for free? It should be behind a paywall.
Right.
Like, well, no.
Well, I mean, that's a whole other thing you've got to make a decision about when you are getting into this. Do you just put your content entirely behind a paywall? Because it's like a sliding scale. You put everything behind a paywall right from day one, you're not going to make a cent because nobody knows that it's there, and they kind of like a try before you buy kind of a thing. If you put none of your content behind a paywall, again, you're not really going to make much because it's all out there for free, and why are people paying for it?
And that's why when, you've got your Patreon, your crowdfunding support, you want to give them, like, extra value.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's like, it's already so hard to make what we're making to begin with. I don't know how we could possibly, because, it's mostly just us two, really, at Deerstalker. We've got our long-term collaborators that we bring on for all the projects, and our composer's been with us for 10 years, Ned. He's amazing. But yeah, just day-to-day, it's us two, and that is not enough people.
No.
Yeah, so we used to do like more bloopers and stuff, and we would do like blooper content, and we had like the time to do that, but like, because obviously this crap costs a lot of money to make, like we're just trying to, film as much as possible on one day. And so then it's like, the first thing to go was like the bloopers. It's like, no fun on set. We have to work.
We've got to do 10 pages today.
Yeah, we got to get more through this. And so the bloopers become just examples of you being a dictator on set. And you put them on Patreon. So I found the same. Like, you've got to kind of have all your eggs in different baskets. just for not only because that's the only way to get enough revenue coming in from different avenues of sources, but also because, as we've seen with Twitter/X happening this year, who knows if a platform that you've invested your entire career into, it just suddenly goes under. I know a lot of people who had, I know a lot of people who had huge followers on Twitter, and then Twitter turned into a burning cesspit, and suddenly they're like having to start again on Instagram or having to start again on these other million different platforms. There's so many platforms. There are too many platforms, and they're just having to start again.
And you have to feed all of them at once.
You got to feed all of them at once, which is why a lot of people that I know who are creators will make something, and then they'll cut that thing for this, and they'll take the audio out, and I'm basically just talking about my own stuff here. Like I do it the same. I'll stream a stream on Twitch, and then I'll take the VOD from Twitch, and I'll top and tail it and put it on YouTube, and then we'll take the audio and put it on my podcast, and then we'll take shorts, and we'll put them on YouTube Shorts and Instagram and TikTok.
Well, that's just smart.
It's just, it's the only way to do it, because who the hell has time to make unique content for every one of these platforms? And
as we said, they're different audiences.
And they're different audiences. It's very difficult to do. What about merchandise? That's an avenue for revenue, right? Does that work for you guys?
Merchandise is great, but the base cost is quite high. And so there's some sort of more crowdfundy, pre-order type things that are better, so you're not out of pocket to begin with. So we ran
make it as they buy it sort of thing.
Yeah, we did a Nixie plushie this year. That was exciting, and we're going to do some more plushies soon.
And it worked well? Like the plushie actually paid off?
They're cute, right?
The
thing is, we're not out of pocket, because it's just like we had to meet a minimum order, which was like 200, and we're like, oh gosh, can we even sell 200? I don't know. And then that blew that out of the water in 24 hours, so that was great. But yeah, merchandise. I mean, what merch do you have, Rob, that people could buy?
I do have merch. So merch for me is a bit of like I do it because I want it out there. I want people to have the option for it. But my merchandise stores, my own personal stuff, doesn't make money. It like loses money, because I try to make sure that I'm paying my artists fairly. And so whenever I'm doing like exclusive stuff, I'm paying the artist for the design, and then I'm making back just enough to pay that. And so I'm not out of pocket by the end of it, but it's not like a huge source of revenue. It's more for me just like a fun thing to do. Yeah.
And the fans, they're repping and
exactly.
Brand awareness.
Yeah, pins and badges and clothing and bottles and mugs and whatever else. But yeah, most of my merchandise stuff is the type of like, you go to the store, you buy what it is from the store, and then the store prints it and sends it, rather than me having to go out of pocket ahead of time, buy a whole bulk bunch of stuff.
Yeah, where are you going to keep that in your
Yeah,
your living room?
exactly. Yeah, just walking around it in my tiny little 2-bedroom place. So what about budgeting? So I know that sometimes on YouTube, as we've said, some of the videos do just absolutely gangbusters, and others they fail out. And how does YouTube help with evening that out, or does it? Like, do you suddenly get a big payfall and a big windfall after a video does really well, and then you have to kind of hold on to that and not go on a spending spree because you know it has to last you through the periods of less? No
way. Like, honestly, like without sponsorship, we would not be like surviving here. Like, even if the video did like gangbusters, we spend so much just putting it out there because we think it's worth putting out there. Yeah. Every video that we release that doesn't have a sponsor, we are losing like thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that, like, you know, because we like making this content, we want to make it regardless of if we get paid. If we get a huge amount of money from, I don't know, some sponsorship or something, we're just going to spend it on the next video.
One. It's reinvesting into it. And we were really lucky that the first 2 seasons that we did of One for All, you know, the budgets were tiny. Like, nobody was really getting paid, like just a little bit for, you know, nice gesture to do, but not real work pay. And yeah, we got a lot of like good funny stuff out there, and we built a team, and everyone was having fun and great. And then we got Screen Australia grant, and I'm like, okay, great, I can pay you guys like proper wages, like pay you as the great artists and craftsmen you are. And then since that, you know, we've finished the Screen Australia funding for the seasons. So yeah, sponsorships just allowing us to break even or, you know, get ahead on the next video.
And how do you reach out to those sponsors? Do you find, like, that's a skill in itself, like to know who to reach out to know how to reach out to them, to know how to negotiate how much you're worth. in like how much is my time, how much is a 30-second advert on this thing worth, or how much is having something in the video to be seen, like integrated sponsorships.
Honestly, that's a really hard question because it's all a numbers game, right?
Yeah.
Like we're just shy of 1 million, so that's worth something. And yeah, we've got to get that 1 million. I want that plaque,
how shy are you?
Yeah, not that close, but 750K, I think we're
Hey,
at,
we're
something
over
like
3
that.
quarters.
Yeah.
Getting there.
What was the question?
Just how do you train that skill? How do you learn the skill of knowing how to reach out to people?
Honestly, we're lucky that people just reach out to us because we have enough like views and awareness.
But I mean, even then, like you still need to know how to negotiate what you're worth.
It's
and
really hard.
How to know what to ask for.
I mean, like,
What's your rate? What's your budget?
Right, yeah, exactly. There's always the who's going to say a number first.
well, like one example is like just recently, I'm sure you guys have heard of Raid Shadow Legends. You know, like they reached out to us and they wanted us to do like an actual dedicated like 5 to 10 minute narrative video with original costumes and all of that stuff. And we're just like, God, we really don't want to.
Really don't.
So we're just like, all right, what's like a number that we can throw out that, you know,
would turn them off.
Yeah, turn them off. And worst case, if they agreed, we would be, you know, rolling in dough. And it's like, well, yeah, no, like $100,000 maybe. And then they were like, well, and we're like, oh no. Oh, no.
Yeah. Like I don't know how they make money. They sponsor so many people and nobody likes it. No. I did my duty as a raid. They reached out to me when I was a relatively small streamer. And I was like, yeah, I mean, that seems like a worth it amount of money. And I did it, and I smashed out the goal because of my amazing community. Because the thing is, when I was doing my Raid Shadow Legends thing, all that counted was somebody downloading the game, playing through the tutorial, and then they could delete the game, and I still got the tick for it. So I was basically telling that to my audience and being like, look, you can do this, and just download it and whatever, and it helps me out. And I smashed through the goals, and so they upped the goal, and then I smashed through that one, and I was like, "You're gonna up the goal again for me?" And they were like, "Nah." So I was like, "All right, well, I'm done. No more Raid Shadow Legends." And since then, they've reached out about, let me think, about 247 times.
Yeah.
Or what it feels like, anyway.
I mean, it's good when you get sponsors that actually align with your brand. Like, oh, you know, here's a Kickstarter for another D&D campaign. I'm like, cool, that's like something my audience would actually be interested in. Great.
And then somebody else is like, here, I've got a toilet cleaner. Would you advertise it in your thing? I'm like,
maybe not. We did get to advertise for Baldur's Gate recently, so I was like, yay.
Very exciting. So you have found that it's just kind of like a trial and error. You put a number out there, and if they accept it super well, you're like, well, that was too low. Oops, I should have said more.
Yeah, it's kind of hard with us because we're like full production. Like some people can just record a TikTok like 60-second thing, and it's easy for them. Right. But because we have a lot of planning and like, okay, well, I've got to pay for 15 people to be on set to film like one 60-second thing. That doesn't make any sense. What do we do? So yeah, just trying to balance those kinds of things.
And excuse me. And then what about crowdfunding, like Kickstarter and such? How does that go for you guys?
Yeah, we did one Kickstarter that, you know, when we put it out there, we were like trying to make like the next like season 4 and 5 like the biggest season ever, and like, you know, we're like, oh, let's start really small, like actually way too small to even do the work that we promised to do. And luckily, we kind of blew through that goal really quickly, like in less than 12 hours or something.
Thanks to our very generous fans.
So then it kind of got to the point where, okay, now we can actually like take this number to Screen Australia and be like, okay, well, here's how much we've raised. This is actually how much we need to make it. So can you give us like the difference?
The difference, right? Yeah, smart.
And then we did a musical.
Yeah.
Another musical.
And what are some of the sort of mistakes that you've made through like Kickstarter fundraiser stuff that people could learn from?
The mistake was offering lots and lots of merchandise that cost a lot of money.
Right.
Because in the end, we only had about half the Kickstarter money we raised to actually use for the filming by the time we gave the rewards out.
It's funny because Viva made the same problem with Kickstarter. They had the same mistake when they underestimated how much shipping costs, especially from New Zealand, which is on a different planet, if anybody didn't know.
Was that for
Balin's Route?
Yeah, for Balin's Route.
Yeah.
The Balin's Route Kickstarter, they offered way too much in terms of the T-shirts and the merchandise and the whatever else giveaways, and then when it came to actually putting it all together, they had so many problems with the guys who were organizing the merch.
It's a big deal, and we're like, oh, actually, we needed that money to like do the filming though.
And it's like, the reward is the content at the end of the day,
Which is why when they did their second Kickstarter for the studio, it was like, I don't know, this isn't an actual example because I don't know what the figures were off the top of my head, but it was like $100 and you get a T-shirt.
Yeah.
It's not like, it'd be easy to look at that and go, $100 T-shirt. It's like, no, you're not buying a T-shirt. You're donating $100 to a project you believe in and that you want to support, and as a thank you, you're also getting a T-shirt.
Yeah.
So let's talk. So we've talked creativity, YouTube, finding the money to actually earn enough to actually make it worthwhile. Talking about chasing the algorithm. Now let's talk just like finding the balance. How do you find the balance of all of those things, like following your passion, following the money, and following what you're good at? Like.
Still trying.
Yeah, if you work it out, let us know.
Yeah, I mean, we are still working out of our apartment. That's been, hard with a work-life balance. But, I think lots of small business, owners would kind of relate to that.
Yeah.
You operate mostly out of your...
Oh, yeah. I operate out of my bedroom for most of my streams. I've got a pull-up green screen that I use for if I'm shooting my YouTube videos, things like that. And then I even do my audio recording when I'm doing audiobooks and stuff, just all from my bedroom, which is not ideal because it's not a recording studio. But I mean, who the hell can afford to buy a recording studio? So you got to do what you got to do, and then it's kind of like you said before, like the money you get, you invest in it, and it's not coincidence we use that word. You're investing in the equipment to make things better. Yeah. You're investing in the people that can make your things better. You're investing in, outsourcing your editing so that you've actually got more time to do the other stuff.
Yeah, and your time is the most valuable thing because it's like, you could be like, oh, well, we only have this much money to operate, but you're like, I could also be writing. So I wear many hats. I'm editing and I'm also writing at the same time. And it's kind of being like, well, we could save money if I did literally everything myself, but then we wouldn't do anything.
Yeah.
And that's still something we're trying to find the balance with because, you do need more time to write.
We talked a little of it earlier, but can we talk more about the trends of different platforms? How do we know what the trend is going towards? YouTube has changed over time, and now it's more vertical stuff, it's more short form stuff. But how do you feel like you guys can stay on top of that? Do you actively research any of that stuff, or do you just kind of go with the flow and see where it takes you?
I think we're really reactive rather than proactive, because I know that we were kind of a bit of that boomer energy, ew, vertical video, gross. Yeah. But eventually we've just kind of accepted this is how people watch stuff, and if we want to reach them, we have to find out where they are and put up content on that platform. So I think this year we've kind of done more shorts and more vertical cut downs, but I think even now, 6 months ago, shorts were ridiculous. We would post anything, minimum 1 million views on even just junk or
Yeah.
And now it's they've sort of stopped, started to turn off the tap for that. So.
Right. Because even that, the trend was towards vertical stuff, and then it was towards shorts and everything, and now it's towards not only that, but also low budget, handheld, one guy talking to himself in his bedroom and then switching the side of the camera. There's so much of that sort of content.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that that's worse, it's just that is a difference in style, and obviously a hell of a lot cheaper to make.
Yeah.
Which means that more people are making it, which means that there's more selection, there's more stuff going up onto YouTube, and so YouTube is favoring that and saying oh yeah, more of this, because people are watching it.
We can't compete with that, not with what we do. And honestly, would you guys watch us if that's what we were doing?
If it was just if the next Deerstalker video was just Kendall just going like this and then going like this. I'm sure you'd get some views.
Yeah, I would watch it.
Watch it.
Only after 2 hours of makeup to make him look.
Yeah, still has to go through all of the high budget anyway.
Exactly. I don't know. I think chasing trends is a bit of a fallacy.
Same.
With that, and we also want to do more narrative stuff, and that's just not really going to work in 60-second vertical short form. So at the same time, like, yes, we want to keep YouTube working, but it's not the only thing we want to do. Like, movie, Netflix series, something like that, you know, actual, like, big story arcs. I mean, we'll still try doing that kind of stuff on YouTube, I think.
Yeah,
Someone just give us the money for a movie, please. Somebody.
Yeah, like you just have to, ultimately at the end of the day, you just have to make what you want to make. You know, I think what Rob said before about like, you know, one for you and one for the studio, like that is kind of the nice balance between the two things. Yeah. But I think ultimately, like if you're only making content like for the algorithm, you're not gonna love what you do.
Even if it's successful, you're going to get to a point where you're like, I've got no creative energy for this. I've got no, I resent having to do this as a job.
Burnout.
Burnout. You're going to burn out because you're not doing anything that you enjoy. You're just chasing numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's that's a depressing thing to end on, but yeah, I think that's good. Something came to mind though that was something I think you said to me the other day when we were talking. You said that like, and on the topic of this kind of thing, you said, what was it? If you're writing a script, you'll try and think, could this be done by someone in their bedroom with a handheld phone?
Yes.
And if so, then like maybe that's the medium for it. Like leave it for that guy to do.
Yeah. There's no point in us like spending 3 hours of makeup to just have like two people talking, and somebody else could do it in their bedroom.
Yeah, if the punchline and the setup and everything is basically just words, and there's not like a visual element to it, you don't need to see Nixie and everybody in full costume and makeup and everything, then it is gonna go better. It's gonna have a much better return on investment to leave it to somebody who makes that sort of content to just be like, here's a funny joke or here's a funny play on words. So where do you draw the line? Where do you look at a script and go, no, this needs to be done. This is something that we should show people.
I mean, it's usually like you need some kind of like visual element, like some kind of setting that actually adds to the story. And then you need like, I guess just like more like visual humor is something that, somebody on their phone isn't really gonna do, because like that's very much like dialogue based.
Yeah.
And so you're just gonna have to like have, somebody appears in a funny way, or somebody does like some physical comedy or whatever.
Yeah, or like a visual effect of like poof, somebody's appearing with puff of smoke or something that they're just not gonna do on a handheld thing.
Yeah.
But I think that also is like differentiates like the show One for All compared to just like random skits about stuff. Like we have characters and their personalities and all their like wacky little relationships with each other and those kinds of
through lines and like you can actually get more out of it and that kind of ties into something else I wanted to touch on as well. Is there a difference, do you notice, in engagement or how well the videos do if you are doing things at like a consistent, regular basis versus doing things in like seasons, going away and being like, we're gonna film all of this and edit it all and put it out as a season?
YouTube rewards you if you post regularly.
Yeah, I mean, like it's kind of like two different things. Like the film industry will always be like, you'll go away, you'll shoot for a month or 6 weeks or something, you'll come back with a movie and it's like a big event. But like, YouTube just wants like drip-fed content over and over again. And so like it is easier for us to kind of dedicate the time, like, here is a week where we're going to be filming skits back to back, and then we're going to release that in a block, and it'll feel like we've done the work, and it's like, check. But like, recently, because obviously like lots of people have different availabilities, like, I'm sure like the DMs out there will know what it's like to kind of schedule the next session.
Yeah.
It's like hard to get a bunch of adults together, especially for a week to shoot. So like we've been going back to this small bits of content here and there.
So and making D&D specific content for YouTube and stuff, would you say there's still like a niche for more of it? There's still a taste for it? There's the growing audience, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think like there are definitely like two different approaches. Like, one is like, doing the memes, like kind of over and over again. Like everybody loves like a good like fireball.
Fireball.
Yeah, but like I think, imagine if we literally only did like, here's Nixie, she does a fireball. It would get so stale so quickly.
At the same time, every video that we have her in that she doesn't do it, no doubt, comment, where's the fireball?
Where's the fireball, though? Yeah, we get that a lot as well on the D&D Logic stuff. As like when which, by the way, just a little teaser, D&D Logic Season 2 has been announced and is actually coming out soon. Well, we're going to start filming it soon, I should say.
First step.
Relatively, in the relative grand scheme of the heat death of the universe, it's coming out pretty soon. D&D Logic Season 2 coming. But people are commenting on things that are any way tangent, like expecting that, like making expectations on Season 2 of like, oh, we'll see this character again, or we'll see that, and like repeating lines. And Viva, as a wider thing, even outside of their D&D stuff, see the same things repeated over and over again, like the Balin, nice day for fishing, ain't it, is a comment under every single video, 100 different
That's
thousand.
smart. Catchphase.
Catchphrase. Get those
Merchandise
catchphrases, get those memes. Yeah, merchandise.
We need more memes.
But be able to do that while also not hating it, by being able to do that while also coming out with new memes and new things and trying new catchphrases and things and see if any of them stick.
Yeah, so I think like if anybody was looking to start making their own D&D content, like you definitely have to have like that balance between like what's the community knows and what everybody can laugh at together, and then like also what do you bring to the table, because if you're just regurgitating like the same things that everybody knows, as soon as you stop making that content, it's like you might as well never have existed.
Yeah, somebody else steps in and starts making that content. It's like, well, what was special about that guy? What was special about those guys? What was special about this thing that the taste, if you didn't bring your own taste to it, or your own twist to it, or your own unique thoughts about a thing, and make somebody in the comments go, oh, I've never thought about it that way before, or I've never heard that joke before. Yeah. If you're just repeating the same stuff, what's the point? Let's say with the last 5 minutes then, any questions or anything, interactions from the audience, if you guys want to ask us anything or just make comments about it. There's a microphone just over here and a microphone just over there. You can come on down and ask us anything you'd like, and within reason, we'll answer them. While we're waiting for people to formulate their questions and stuff, what have you noticed the differences being, since you have tried both, between cutting your shorts, YouTube shorts and TikToks and things out of your D&D content that is longer, or making things that are unique for them? What are the differences so far that you've noticed?
I think that like if you're cutting something out of a video that people have already seen, you're not going to kind of get that overlap of like your regular viewers who will watch anything you post with like, the push notifications turned on, they've hit that bell icon. Yeah. They're not going to then rewatch the same video just immediately after. Whereas like with, specifically designed for a short form like content, like that's going to get those people in the door, which is then going to get YouTube to start pushing it. Yeah. And I think overall it's just going to be like a better like video in the end, because like you've made it for that format. It's like with the cut down, it's like you're usually missing the context or the lead up, or it's not as strong as it could be.
Is the cut down version, has it got benefits in that you will find people who haven't seen that first video will see it and go, oh, this seems like one I haven't seen, and they'll go and find the other one? No,
people don't click on things. That's too hard.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they'll just put in the comments, where's the rest of it? They're like, it's linked. It's the pinned comment.
Well, sometimes the cut down has things missing, and so things are out of context, and then we've gotten in some hot waters sometimes with that kind of thing. I'm just like, just watch the full video. It makes sense, I swear.
Yeah, I found that, so I've recently started doing some made-for short content rather than cutting them down for the first time. And I jumped on this sort of Baldur's Gate bandwagon. I was really enjoying
Yes, I did see that.
the differences. and I've started making a series of YouTube shorts that's just like outlining differences. Because I think as with sort of throughout time, we've seen different booms and waves of people coming to D&D. Baldur's Gate is going to be one that really brings a lot of new players to Dungeons & Dragons. I think a lot of video gamers and people who have heard about it through one reason or another are going to go, oh, this looks fun. Wait, is this? Oh, this is Dungeons & Dragons. Let's give it a go. And so I've made a series of shorts currently that are like, if you're new to the game and you're enjoying Baldur's Gate 3, here's some of the things to keep in mind are different about the video game and the tabletop. And I've noticed that those ones, being made specifically for short form content, doing way better than any of my sort of cut down things.
But also because BG3 is like trending
And also
right
because
now.
of BG3 is trending as well. And so that's another reason why it's so hard to do any of the analytics chasing on YouTube, is there's so many, it's not a science experiment where you can exclude one variable.
Yeah.
Everything is like, well, was it just the time of day that I released it? Was it because something else had happened, something else was released similarly? Has like a massive video game been released this weekend, and so people are just spending less time on YouTube? Have people got less time in general? Have people got more time because there's a global pandemic? There's just so many different things that you just can't possibly point to a single variable to know why a video is doing well or poorly.
Yeah, like there was some like obviously stuff happening in the real world. Like
Yep.
I think we were gonna release a video where Nixie sets a forest on fire, and that was like the same week that we had those bushfires. So
You're
we're
like, topical,
maybe
this will go well. Wonderful. Well, I think we're pretty much out of time then. It doesn't look like anybody's going to ask us any questions, so that works for me. Let's wrap up with where people can find you, where people can find your stuff, and most importantly, what thing is doing really poorly on YouTube that you'd really want people to go and watch because you put a lot of effort into it? Oh. Have you got a particular video that's like, man, I was so proud of that one and I wanted more views?
Oh, we have a question.
Oh, a question.
Alrighty, I'll just match it with my height. Alrighty. To be honest, before PAX, I haven't heard of you guys, but now I want to binge watch you guys. So,
You definitely should.
yeah. I was gonna ask for past or maybe projects in the future. Are you planning to implement like fight choreo in your projects? Or have you done that already?
We have done like really janky stuff in the past. The problem with like fight choreo is that like it takes so much rehearsal. And so when you're then paying like all the people to like come and spend a day together to just like, you know, hit each other and all of that stuff.
A day, more like a week.
Oh, yeah, probably more like a week to do the actual choreo. Yeah, that's expensive, and you could instead film like an actual video. I mean, it is something that I really want to do though, because I know that like, you know, with Viva, it's like you guys have like a full...
There's times that they've had like proper stunt folk in and like fight choreographers and things employed, but as you say, it's expensive. And one of the things that Viva does often is a way of return on investment is they'll say, okay, we are paying this amount for this location, we're paying this amount for the fight choreo, we're paying this amount for the costumes, we're going to get at least 3 or 4 skits filmed with that stuff on that day, so that we can then, you know, justify the cost and spread the cost of...
That's how you budget.
That's how you do it, it's how you budget. And so usually you will see a bunch of stuff coming out on the Viva channel and the D&D channel of like things that have utilized the same props or the same people or whatever, and you'll see it spread over a little bit.
So to that end, yes, we'd love to do more.
Yeah, love to do more, but it needs some more extra green.
I mean, if anyone wants to come and get beat up for us, we would love that to happen.
Yeah, because
hell yeah.
Back in the US, there's like these indie stunt performers. I don't know if you have that here in Australia as well.
Indie stunt performers?
There are, but we just want to make sure everyone's safe, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I think
do we? Is there another question?
So I'm fairly new to D&D, and I've recently just come across you guys' content on Instagram Reels, which is great.
Go to YouTube.
Next step. I just question is, so have you guys noticed like a surge in traffic since Baldur's Gate 3 has come out? Have you guys noticed like any crazy amount of
We get a
views?
couple comments, but I don't think it's necessarily from BG3. Just YouTube pushing because we've been posting.
I think we have actually a lot of comments from very, very thirsty people who are doing their own fan castings of which of our actors they want to be.
They're like, oh, if Deerstalker did a Baldur's Gate 3 like skit series with who would play what? Yeah,
I mean, Shadowheart and Evandra have like the same hair and...
Yeah,
but I know that Eva really wants to do Karlak.
Yeah.
Because, you know, big mama energy.
Antreus is walking around today as Gale, if you saw him on our panel.
He is eating your boots, so be careful with those.
Cool,
excellent. So and because my short series that I'm coming out with is about Baldur's Gate 3, huge audience is coming in from that, thankfully.
I mean, we all love it, so...
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
Cool. So where can people find you? What do you want them going to watch? Which platforms do you want them going to?
Deerstalker Pictures on YouTube, also on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok.
Yeah, watch the episode called Bards of a Feather. You will be upset.
And I'm Robert Hartley, GM. You can find me at Viva La Dirt League D&D or roberthartleygm.com. I'm on pretty much all of the crazy amount of platforms. Thank you very much for coming, everybody. Have a good rest of your day.